Tom,
Hey, Steve.
welcome. Welcome to Wordle Golf on YouTube. Welcome, Wordle Golf players. This is one of our new players, Thomas Haines, good friend of mine, good guy, and thought we'd just keep introducing Wordle Golf players. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing well, Steve. Thanks for having me. This is fun. I can tell you that just even a week ago, I never imagined I'd be on a World Golf interview. So I'm honored. So thanks for having me.
It's huge, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, this is great.
I love your artwork. What's going on?
I've been rearranging things and I think I've got it just the way I like it. The one over my left shoulder is a little bit glaring. No, you catch me in transition. We're packing up a house and I'm moving. So I feel like it's kind of that sensation you have in the morning while the coffee's brewing and you're about to open Wordle, but the game hasn't begun yet. It's sort of like I'm in transition right on the edge of some new things. So yeah, I'm in an office that used to have art all around the walls actually, but it's all been removed and yeah, just in the final stages, a few more boxes to go here.
And where in the world are you located?
I am in the lovely seacoast of New Hampshire. I'm specifically right now in the town of Durham, which is home to the University of New Hampshire for any New England folks. Yeah, here about maybe 10 miles inland from the coast or whatever that is. And not far from Great Bay and just a few steps away from the Oyster River. So yeah, awesome. In Durham, New Hampshire.
What do you do for work, Tom?
It's interesting. I always think of it first. I'm a journalist. I spent a bunch of years in newsrooms, just a kind of straight up news reporter. And now for the last decade, I've sort of my main day job has been teaching at the University of New Hampshire. I teach journalism and writing and a whole range of classes and but still do my own work, do my own sort of freelance stuff. So yeah.
When you were a full-time journalist, who did you write for and what did you cover?
Yeah, so my two main jobs were I was a reporter out at the Seattle Times back in the 1990s, and it was so long ago that I hung out with Jeff Bezos in his Honda Accord before Amazon went public, and we drove through McDonald's and got like bags of burgers and fries while he told me about his big idea. He said that he named it Amazon because he's like, this isn't just about books. One day, everything in the world is going to flow through this company. And I thought, yeah, right. Needless to say, I should have bought more stock. I didn't even buy any stock, but no. So, I was in Seattle in the 90s and covered everything from city news, but I did cover technology for a few years, and that's what had me hanging out with him. And that was sort of the heyday of Microsoft when Bill Gates was, running the place, and being in Seattle, that was big news. And then I was at the Boston Globe for a bunch of years and did a lot of international sort of news and travel writing. So kind of transitioned and had had the privilege of going to about 50 countries for them all around the world, Africa, Asia, and elsewhere. And so writing about, all different kinds of stories. And then here at UNH, I've kind of focused more recently my work on sort of energy and the environment and climate change. As a sort of being outside of a news operation, I kind of wanted to have a beat for myself, something that gave me a little focus. And climate is obviously one of the big issues of our time, and is going to remain so. So yeah, as you know, I spent a little bit of time. I wrote a book a couple of years ago about kind of looking at this idea of where we get our fuel and how we transition to something more sustainable. And yeah,
so you basically I read your book. I loved your book, and
thanks.
What's it called, first of all?
Walking to the Sun. Yeah. And I actually don't have a copy to show you because they're all boxed up like everything else.
And don't think he's a narcissist. I asked him to find one and hold one up. But Walking to the Sun, it's I would think of it as a kind of personal road book, like a road movie in paper form, whatever you call those. And just investigating different kinds of energy production around the country, his personal reactions to the settings, bring you right into the oil fields and the fracking fields and all that. So it's both lyrical and big picture stuff.
Yeah, thanks. No, and it's interesting. I think one through line of a lot of the work I've done is movement and place, kind of using like my own sort of journeying through a place to kind of have experiences and write about things. And so, yeah, that was definitely a big part of walking to the sun, was quite literally walking around in, like you mentioned, in like oil fields and coal mines and wind farms. And I will say one thing, it puts you in a position to meet a lot of people and have some interesting experiences. So
No doubt, no doubt. So as an author and a journalism teacher, a lifelong writer who's worked all these great places, you won Wordle round 3, right?
you might think so, right? You might think, hey, this guy has an inside track. He's going to kill it. He's going to be really good at this game. Well, no. I didn't win Wordle round 3. In fact, I looked and I was like, oh, well, then surely I came in second. And that's not true either. And I said, well, then I must have been third or fourth or fifth. And I gave up somewhere around fifth. But no, I did not win Wordle round 3.
Well, that was kind of satisfying for me because I always think of you and I being kind of in the same pattern, except you do everything a whole lot better than I do. Both writers, both former journalists. So that was a little bit of a equalizer in my insecure brain.
Well, Wordle's great.
Actually, but you did beat me. You did beat me by 2. So
well, that's just dumb luck on my part. I think.
I know there are avid readers and there are English teachers also playing Wordle. I don't want to name them because I don't want to forget anybody, but there are a lot of smart literary types on here. And that doesn't always determine your score. So do you have any do you have a favorite starting word?
I don't. I think my favorite, it varies. And I think I don't even know how many days of Wordle I've played, but let's call it 100. I've probably started with 80 different words almost. Like I for some reason, there was a little period where I would go around like stain or something with a few ST, a couple of vowels in there.
Yeah.
And so I did variations on that for a little while, but now my guiding thing is literally, I usually play Wordle while my coffee water is getting to boiling. So I'm not fully awake, but I'm already starting to feel the triggers of having caffeine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I usually just go with whatever comes into my head. And I think that's actually kind of the biggest thing with Wordle, that I don't know if other people feel this, but it's like this, you're trying to navigate these two impulses between like instinct and analysis. Like, do you kind of see it and go with it? You know what I mean? Like, you say you play your first word and you get two letters, one's you get in the right place and one somewhere else. And you might have some very quick, like, oh, it's that. It's like, do you put that down or do you go, okay, let me think about this a little bit. Let me do anyway. Yeah. So that even begins with the first word. And I tend to just go with instinct in the first word. I'm like, okay, whatever I think of that day, it might be thematic, something I had for dinner the night before or something like that. I'll be like,
liver.
Yeah. or I ate my dinner on a plate, that kind of thing. I was sitting at a table in a chair, there's so many choices. Have
you done a lot of reading about the sort of strategies that are the nonverbal strategies, like the one that a lot of successful players use is you don't let your first choice inform your second choice. You just try to vacuum up as many possibilities as you can in your second choice.
So to answer the first question, no, I've done zero reading about Wordle. You know what I mean? I forget actually how I think, like a lot of people, right when it started to blow up, or I don't know how soon, but sort of in that blow up stage, I saw somebody on Twitter posted their Wordle results and I'm like, what is this thing? You know what I mean? And then I saw it again. So I think I Googled Wordle and ended up there, but I've never read about it. The only tactic that I have picked up somewhere was the one you mentioned when you mentioned to me about a week or two ago. You were like, that's for that pro move that sometimes people will guess a completely different 5-letter word on the second guess. And that I've started to do, and I find it to be very helpful. And because by the third guess, you've got a little bit of an arsenal of things there. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But that was just that. I think that's the only sort of specific strategy that I've come up with. I pretty much wing it and hope it's not one of those words that has like like stuck and snuck and or whatever that could, you know, you can kind of run through 3 or 4 options before you hit it.
Yep. And so proper credit goes to Catherine, who was our first winner who used that technique. And I think, forgive me if I get this wrong, but I think Chris said she might use it as well. She's our second round winner. We're recording
thanks,
this.
Catherine and Chris. That's a good tip, or that's a good technique. Yeah.
And we're recording this on the eve, or like while there is sudden death between Carol and Chris. And so
are we pending results, or is that happening today?
Well, they're kind of making it a cliffhanger. It's now 1:45 in the afternoon and neither is played, even though it's customary in the United States or probably around the world to play first thing in the morning. So I think they're just trying to keep us on pins and needles, and it's working, damn it.
Yeah.
But I just for the past few days, I've been, because I'm desperate about my Wordle score, and feeling more than humbled. It's just like, I was humbled when I first started. Now I'm just like beaten down. But I've been using, I found out what the inventor of Wordle uses as his first word, or recommends as the best first word. It's rote, R-O-A-T-E. We all have heard of the word rote, R-O-T-E, meaning something you kind of do mechanically, rote learning. It's kind of like memorization, but rote is I think they said it's a obsolete variant of.
But when he recommends that, is it because he's done like data analysis of the frequency of the use of every letter in the language, and R, O, A, T, and E are like the 5 most used letters, and so it's most statistically likely that you'll get something from that? Is that the idea?
That's the gist I got from it. He's he programmed the thing, whether he's a data scientist or not, I don't know, but it does seem like it's supposed to be data oriented. And his second word that he pairs with it is sling. So I've been using rote and sling for the past 3 or 4 days. Got me a 3 today, when of course it doesn't count because it would be the 19th hole. But I feel kind of cheesy doing that. Like it doesn't seem like it's in the spirit of having fun and taking it in its proper perspective, but that's where I'm at.
I have a feeling like if I ever try rote, it'll be one of those days that it's a word that has none of those letters. And I'm just like, he set us up for failure.
I should have used adieu.
Yeah, adieu. It would have been perfect. Yeah, that was one that I heard from one of my daughter's friends who plays it, that they often use adieu, A-D-I-U. It certainly covers your vowel bases, unless,
Yeah, because in obvious analogy is Wheel of Fortune, and Wheel of Fortune, they tend to start out with T, R, S, and L, but you have to pay for vowels. So in their world, vowels have a bigger value than consonants. I've always found consonants are kind of the hook you hang your hat on, and then you'll deal with the vowels later. But that's probably one of the many reasons I don't win this thing. But you mentioned your daughter. So I promised not to keep you too long, but I did want to mention some of the cool things your kids are up to. I've met them both. I know your son a little bit more and love him. But do you want to just give people a little glimpse as to what kids are up to?
Yeah, sure. They're busy flying the nest. My son is Luca is a 20-year-old, going to be a college junior out in Durango, Colorado, races his bike very fast in circles, as he says. I ride my bicycle in circles, in criteriums and road races and things. And he's working for a land restoration company this summer and doing like basically mitigation of like erosion after wildfires and all this kind of stuff. And so having looked at climate issues a lot, I'm like, well, that's certainly a growth industry. And it's just good, honest labor, and he's making good money. So he's having fun.
His major?
What's that? He's an environmental studies, but with a GIS. So what is it? Geographic information systems. So like data programming. He's, as you know, he's been on Strava, which is a, kind of a social media cycling and fitness app, but basically involves a lot of like mapping and topography. Right. And that's sort of the sweet spot. And so he's always been about kind of terrain and culture and these kind of things. And so that's part of what he's doing in his internship too. There's some office work where he's working on like mapping of the projects they're doing and stuff like that. And then my daughter, Colette, is heading off, just graduated from high school and is heading off to the big city. Country Mouse, going to become a city mouse in New York, going to NYU. And she is a singer, songwriter, rapper, producer, Wordle player. And so, yeah, she does a lot of like original production and performing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so
can I hear a song of hers anywhere?
She is on Spotify, Colette, Colettete. If you search for her, What I Did When I Was Dead is one of the songs that she has out there, actually. And for the Wordle fans, she's okay, so I'm perhaps not the most objective listener as her father, but I mean, she is an incredible lyricist and writes a lot of really like interesting word play, image-based kind of lyrics. She just wrote a song that I was listening to that has not been released, but I think she will release it by the end of the month, called state vector collapse, which is a term in quantum physics, apparently, that her roommate, who has taken physics, told her about sometime during her senior year. And it inspired this whole song, state vector collapse. And there's a lot of kind of cool riffing lyrics around that. So
Colette Haines, Haines.
Yeah.
What I Did When I Was Dead.
What I Did When I Was Dead.
Yeah, I've heard that song, and it is a ominous title, but a very pretty song. Pretty in the right sense. It's very pleasing. Her lyrics are really sophisticated, and to Tom's point, they're colorful, they're eloquent, but she's also playing with like alliteration and internal rhymes, and Completely. It's kind of hard to believe she's a high school kid or just starting college, but
it's fun to watch.
Definitely worth a listen.
That song, my memory of it was the Genesis came where she did one of these guided meditations. She's just hanging out with like friends where, you play like on your phone, someone walks you through and they take you into kind of like a sleep state. And so she said when she came from that, she'd had during the guided meditation, some kind of vision of like being alive during the French Revolution or something. So she was Googling and doing a little research and was like, oh yeah, that the thing that on a guillotine, there's when they cut the rope, that the part they're cutting is called the counterweight. And so there's a lyric in the song called Eat the Rich and lick your fingers while they cut the counterweight. And I was like, sweet, nice. I wouldn't have come up with that. So yeah.
And another thing I admire about it is I can't think of anything easier if you're a teenage rapper than trying to be gangster and trying to be vulgar. And I didn't get any of that out of it. It was pretty. It was beautiful. It was not appropriating cultures. Not that that's a gigantic crime. So I just thought it was fantastic.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I think I agree. It's very original and fresh stuff, I think, which is cool. Cool to watch.
Anything you want to say about your plans, your future life in general, our game here that we're playing?
Just that, I mean, from the teaching and reporting standpoint, just kind of, transition. I'm looking forward to we were just talking the other day. I think I most enjoy sort of magazine length writing, and where you get to kind of dive in. You sort of take a deep dive, but not too deep of a dive, And so I'm looking forward to doing some of that in the fall. I'm going to be heading out to the borderlands in Texas the next couple of weeks where I used to live. And so we'll be looking into some stories out there, following some threads from earlier reporting. But no, I mean, just Wordle, I don't know. I mean, it's a fun way to start the day. I'm sure everybody has their own relationship with it, but I don't know what the best metaphor is, but it's just a little wake up, and I don't know, it puts it makes waking up a little more fun, and I love, by the way, and I think it would ruin it. And maybe someone's already done this, but the fact that you can play once a day. Mm-hmm. There must have been some conversation early on about like, you just hit the button and you get another word and you go again and you go again and you go again. And I just think it's such a great kind of pace to have one word. And if you take a 6, well, better wait 24 hours for your next chance. So anyway.
Absolutely. Well, it's great talking to you, Tom. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Steve. It's fun to do this, and yeah, and thank you for welcoming me into the world of Wordle Golf, because I think it adds another layer, right? To just feel like you're, just to be part of a community and see what everybody's coming up with, and be, so.
Yes. So I want to thank all of you Wordle golfers out there. Really appreciate your participation. And there's every sign that everybody's honoring the system and not cheating. And not that we would expect that, but it's just worked out really well. The enthusiasm is high. People keep coming back. No pressure to come back. But I've really enjoyed it, and I thank you all for participating. Looks like we might have a couple more next time. If it gets unwieldy, we'll shut it down. But anyway, next time will be in a few days. I'll let y'all know when round 4 starts up.
All right, I'm heading to the driving range. See you later.
All right, see you, brother.
Bye-bye.